3 seconds. That is all the audio a scammer needs to build a deepfake of your daughter's voice, or your father's, or your own. A short clip from a birthday video, a voicemail greeting, a story posted to a feed. Feed it to a program, and the machine can now say anything in that voice, on demand. So think about a woman named Dolores, 71, who picks up the phone at 9 at night and hears her grandson sobbing that he has been in a crash and needs $3,000 for bail before morning. The voice was real. The grandchild was not. And there is one habit you can set up at your kitchen table tonight, in about a minute, that beats even a flawless fake of someone you love. Pin that, because I am holding it until you have earned it.
I'm Bella, and here's who this hits first. It is not the tech crowd. It is the parent who taught themselves to video call the grandkids, doing everything right, being reachable, being loving. That instinct to pick up when family sounds scared is the exact door these scams walk through.
Last episode, we sat with the strangest true fact in this field, that the people who build these models cannot fully explain them. Today, we point that same technology at a person's face and voice, and we hand you the defense kit.
This is Caroline, and I want to follow the money because that is who this is really built for. Somebody gets paid when you panic and wire funds you can't claw back. Voice on the phone, a face on a video call, a celebrity swearing a product changed their life. Same engine, 3 disguises.
This is Chris, and the trap is in how people prepare. They learn to tell. Weird hands, flat glassy eyes, a mouth a half beat behind the words, real tells today. The problem is the fakes get better every few months, so the tell you memorized this year is gone next year. That is why we are not going to hand you a checklist of glitches and call it safety.
Which is the good news, honestly. Because the thing that actually works does not depend on your eyes being sharp. It depends on one small habit anyone can run. On their worst day, half asleep, scared. That is the whole promise of this one.
This one has been sitting under every video on this topic, and it is the fear I hear most. Someone asked it plainly. If they can fake my kid's voice perfectly, how am I ever supposed to know what's real?
That question runs the whole episode, and the honest answer is not what you'd expect. You stop trying to tell real from fake by looking. You change what you trust in the first place. Let's start where the fake is born, because once you see how a face gets stolen, the defense stops feeling like magic.
So let me show you where the fake actually comes from, because it is calmer than the horror stories make it sound. If you watched our image generator episode, you already know the core trick. A model trained to turn random static into a picture. A face fake is that same trick, pointed at one person. Think of a potluck dinner. Everybody brings a dish, the table fills up, and by the end there's a spread nobody planned. A voice model is the host at that table. The clips of your voice are the dishes people brought. The model tastes the whole spread, learns the flavors, and can now plate a brand new dish that tastes exactly like the party, one you never actually cooked.
Okay, but what's the cover charge when the bar is free? Push the potluck for me. What does the fake still have to borrow from the real party?
The flavor. Here's the catch, though. Unlike a potluck, nobody sees the kitchen. The dish shows up plated, and you taste your grandmother's cooking, and you never get to ask who stood at the stove. In plain terms, the model reproduces the sound and the look of a person from samples, without any of the person being there.
Put today on layer 7 of the AI stack, the limits. That is the shelf where the same technology that writes your email quietly learns to wear someone else's face. Hold that layer, because the defense comes straight out of it.
Give me the real numbers, though. How much do they actually need to steal from me?
Let me do the math out loud. A usable voice clone, 3 seconds at the low end. Call it a sentence. A convincing one, more like a minute of clean audio. A face on a video call. A handful of clear clips, say 5 or 6 good ones. So round it, not hours of footage, minutes. Which, for anyone who has ever posted, is basically already public.
Wait. Run that figure by me one more time. 3 seconds. That is a voicemail greeting. That is one story you posted. Run the honest version of this. There is no vault to protect because the raw material is already out the door, which means the fight was never about hiding your voice.
That deserves someone who takes these scams apart for a living, not the four of us trading hunches. We called in someone who studies exactly how these fakes get built and why smart people fall for them. Professor Salcido, can you hear us?
I'm here, and here's where I'd correct the frame right away. People ask how to make the fake look wrong. That's the losing question. The right one is what job the fake has to do, because the answer is small. It doesn't have to survive a forensics lab. It has to survive you scared for about 60 seconds.
You're right about the samples being public. I'll give you that. So what actually makes the good ones land?
Urgency and love. Every strong one manufactures a clock and points it at someone you'd do anything for. The technology is almost the boring part. 9 times out of 10, the real weapon is the panic. The consumer alerts spell this out. The FTC one from 2023, I think, check the year, but the principle isn't in doubt. I'll hand the money side back to you three. You see that better than I do. Thanks for pulling me in, and go give them the defense.
So write this on layer 7 and keep it. The face is not the identity anymore. Seeing someone is no longer proof it is them. Hold that. Before this video ends, one Hong Kong story turns that sentence into $25 million. Real quick, because this next part matters to you. If any of this is helping, tap that like button, then hit subscribe and ring the bell so the next one finds you. Both are free and take about a second, but they tell the algorithm to show this to one more person who needs it. $25 million is the number we're driving toward, and it started with a video call where every face was borrowed. But before we get there, we have to settle a fight this whole room disagrees on. And your safety genuinely rides on which side is right. The question people search for most is, quote, how do I spot a deepfake? 2 of us answer it 2 different ways, and I'm not going to tell you who's right until they've fought it out. Chris thinks learning the tells is still worth your time. Caroline thinks it's a trap. Chris, make the case.
Careful before you throw the whole idea out. Look at what people actually meet. Most fakes in the wild are lazy, a rushed voice clone with a robotic edge, a video with a mouth a half step behind the words, hands with a finger too many. One caught tell wakes a person up. That's a real save.
And that save has an expiration date. Run the clause the researchers keep writing. The tells are false negative machines now because the newer fakes come out statistically cleaner than the ones we learned to catch. So you're teaching people a skill that
still catches the lazy 90% today. Wrong to trash it.
It's not 90, and that's the danger. Nobody knows the number because the good fakes are the ones you don't catch, so they never make it into your count. That's the trap. You spot 3 lazy ones, you feel trained, and the 4th one, the polished one, is the one that actually comes for your family. Confidence is the product they're selling you.
Caroline, pin it to a line. What's the moment you tell someone to stop trusting their own eyes?
The second real money or a real secret is on the table. Glance if you want, but the eyes are the wrong tool for anything that costs you. 60 years ago, a program called ELIZA taught the first lesson in this entire field. The human is the easy part to fool. Nothing since has repealed that.
Chris, she just named your strongest problem, the polished fake you never see. Answer that head on, not the lazy one.
Fair. I can't spot the polished one. Nobody reliably can. So I'll narrow it. The tells are a smoke alarm, not a lock, worth a glance, never worth trusting. If it costs money or secrets, the glance doesn't count. Something else has to.
So bottom line, past this point, you're telling people to just never believe their own eyes again?
No, not never believe. Verify before you act. Your eyes are fine for watching a clip. They are not the thing you bet $3,000 on. That's the whole line.
Then here's my verdict, and the recommendation I'd hand your family, and I'll name where it comes from. The consumer guidance from the FBI and the FTC lands exactly where Caroline did. They tell you to verify, not to squint. So the bounded truth is this. Spotting the tells buys you something today on a lazy fake for a beginner. It buys you nothing on the fake that's actually built to take your money. So the call is simple. Chris keeps the glance. Caroline keeps the rule underneath it. And that rule is where we go next, because everything so far just told you the eyes fail. The next 10 minutes is the part that saves you $3,000.
You know the case that keeps showing up whenever we cover this?
The Hong Kong one? The video call? Go.
Early last year, the Hong Kong office of a global engineering firm called Arup. A finance employee gets a message from the chief financial officer about a confidential deal. Feels off. So the company does the responsible thing. They put it on a video call, and there's the CFO. There's a couple of other colleagues they know, faces they've seen in meetings, voices they recognize.
Wait, the call was the safety check?
That's the gut punch. The verification step was the trap. Every face on that call was a deepfake, not one real person besides the victim. And over about 15 transactions, they moved money out.
$25.6 million, 200 million Hong Kong,
Say that number again, slowly.
$25 million, gone to a call where nobody on it was real. And notice who got hit, not a careless person. A finance professional doing what looked like due diligence. Who gets paid when a real employee follows a fake boss? The people on the other end of 15 wire transfers.
So here's the reach back to what Bella said up top about a face being borrowed. That call was a whole room of borrowed faces, and it drained a fortune. This is not just a grandparent scam. It scales straight into the finance department.
But this is where I get hopeful, actually, because the fix is the same size at both ends. Whether it's your grandmother or a corporate treasury, the counter move is one move. Before I let you finish, though, quick question for the room. Of the 4 defenses we're about to give you, how many do you think that a Arup employee would have needed to stop this? All 4?
All 4 easily, maybe more.
1. Just 1. A single callback to the CFO on a number the employee already had, not the number in the message, and the whole thing collapses. That's the entire lesson of the 25 million. One channel you control beats a room full of perfect faces. One question hangs over the next scene, and it's the one you're already asking. What is that habit exactly, and can Dolores actually do it at 9 at night? So what is that habit, and can Dolores run it at 9 at night, half asleep and terrified? Yes. That's the point of these 4. Not one of them asks you to spot anything. They all work even if the fake is perfect. Let me walk you through them the way you'd actually use them, in order.
And these are the reps, 4 habits. Let me put them on the board in the order you'd reach for them. Step 1, the known number callback. Someone contacts you in a panic, you hang up, and you call them back on the number already in your phone. Not the number that called you, the one you had yesterday. A cloned voice cannot answer a phone that rings the real person.
And here's who this saves: the person who feels rude hanging up on their own kid. So say it out loud now to your family so it's allowed later. Real emergencies survive a callback. If someone fights you on hanging up and calling back, that resistance is the tell that replaced all the visual ones.
Step 2, the family passphrase. This is the one the FBI actually recommends in writing. You pick a word together, nothing guessable, not a pet, not a street, something odd, and any emergency call asking for money has to include it before anyone moves.
Take that one seriously because it's the only defense that beats a technically perfect clone. The voice can be flawless. The face can be flawless. The fake does not know your word. That's the it. That's the whole reason a made-up word outranks $1 million model.
But a passphrase is useless if it lives on a sticky note nobody agreed to. This is a 5-minute dinner conversation, not a project. Kids too, especially the kids, because their voices are the easiest to pull off a posted video.
Hold on, though. I'd push back on leaning the whole house on one word. What happens when someone forgets it under real stress? The word can't be the only lock, or you.
Which is exactly why it's step 2 of 4, not step 1 of 1.
Fair, layered, not single. I'll take that.
Steps 3 and 4 are for the video and the post, not the phone call. Reverse search the image or a frame of the clip. A free lookup can show you the same picture living somewhere older or somewhere it was never supposed to be. And the last one is the mindset that ties the whole kit together. Check the source before you react to the content. Where did this reach me, and can I confirm it on a path I trust before I let it move me? 4 habits. None of them need sharp eyes. All of them work tonight. That is the defense kit. Right tool, right job.
Right tool, right job.
So now I'll give you the number I promised to hold, the one I said was only scary if you were unprotected. You've got the 4 habits now. Here it is. Follow the money on the whole industry, not one scam. The analysts who track fraud losses put a real figure on where this is heading, and it is not small.
Let me do this one out loud so it doesn't just wash over anyone. In 2023, the losses tied to this kind of AI-driven fraud in the US were around $12.3 billion. Bad, but call it the floor.
And it is the floor, not the ceiling. The projection stacks on top.
Here's where it's headed. And I want to be careful with how I say this. This is a projection, not a measured fact yet. But it comes from Deloitte's financial services researchers, and here is the figure. $40 billion in projected US losses by 2027, up from that 12.3. A 32% climb year after year. And that's the small version, that is the projection under normal assumptions. The reason I held it until now is simple. That number is terrifying if you have no defense, and it's just whether if you do, you do. You built 4 of them last scene. Chris, be honest with me here, teach me this one. I read fraud stats for a living and I still can't always tell a real trend from a scary headline. How do we know that 40 is a real curve and not a marketing number?
Good question, and here's the honest answer. You don't trust one number. You watch the direction. Losses climbing, the tools getting cheaper, the samples already public. 3 arrows, same way. The exact 40 could be off. The direction won't be.
And this is the part I sit with. My whole job is reading the fine print for who profits, and I keep every receipt because, as my family jokes, I call it evident. But you can't file a complaint against a curve. The only thing that scales with the number is the habit, which is why we drilled it before we showed you the 40.
That's the real reassurance, honestly. The scam scales. The defense scales with it. A passphrase works whether it's 12 billion or 40. Here's who this protects. The same person from minute 1, just no longer alone with it.
So carry 2 numbers out of here. 3 seconds to steal a voice. 1 callback to beat it. That gap, tiny to fake, tiny to defend, is the whole episode. And it leaves one last thing to fix. The belief that got us here in the first place. One callback. That's what beat a room full of perfect faces. So the last thing to repair is the reflex those faces exploited. Seeing is believing. For your whole life, that was a fair rule. A photo was evidence. A video was proof. That rule is over, and pretending it isn't is what these scams run on.
Look at the swap. Old rule, new rule.
Here's the replacement, and it's the one idea I want you to leave with. You stop asking, is this real, because your eyes can no longer answer that. You ask instead, where did this come from, and how did it reach me? A video of your bank's president saying move your money means nothing until you check the chain. Did it come through the door you trust, or did it just arrive? If a clip only exists because a stranger sent it to you in a panic, the clip is not the evidence, the channel is. That is the entire mental shift, and once it clicks, every scam in this episode gets weaker. because they all depend on you trusting the pixels instead of the path.
And there is real technology trying to help on the honest side. It's worth knowing, and worth knowing its limits.
This is the C2PA, Content Credentials. What is it plainly?
It's a shared standard, backed by Adobe, Microsoft, Google, the BBC, Sony, a long list. Think of a nutrition label attached to a photo or video, a sign tag that travels with the file saying where it came from and how it was edited. Real cameras and real tools can stamp it. When it works, you can click and see the history.
Read me the actual limit though, not the brochure. What does it not do?
Straight from the standard's own people. The tag can be stripped, upload the file, screenshot it, re-record it, and the label falls off. Most platforms don't display it yet. And it proves where something came from, not whether it's true. So the honest read is this. It helps a good actor prove their real photo is real. It does not reliably catch a bad actor's fake, because the bad actor just strips the tag. Which is exactly why the technology is a helper, and the habit is the defense.
Honestly, this is my gym membership all over again. Everyone wants the gadget that does it for you. Nobody wants the boring rep that actually works. I signed up 11 neighbors for a running program and
3 still show up. The gadget always loses to the boring rep, Chris.
Okay, that's a whole different sport, Chris. Bring it home. The tag is the gadget. The callback is the rep. And the rep is the thing that actually works tonight.
The clause that survives all of this is short. Verify the source before you trust the content. Everything else is decoration.
That's the whole thing. Your eyes got outrun, your process didn't. Trust chains, not pixels, and no fake in the world can reach through a callback and a word only your family knows. Before I run it back, try to say the one habit you'll set up tonight out loud right now. Here's the recap. A voice takes 3 seconds to steal and a lifetime of trust to exploit, so you stop trusting the voice and start trusting the callback and the word only your family knows.
Next time we open the strangest room in this whole subject, what the machine does with the data you feed it, and whether your own words are training the next model without you ever agreeing. That one gets personal fast.
And here's who this protects. The person you were worried about the second we started. Set the passphrase with them this week. You are handing them a defense that works even on their scariest phone call, and it costs 1 dinner conversation.
tonight's move. 1 text to your family group. Pick a word, agree that no emergency money moves without it, and that any panic call gets a hang up and call back first. 5 minutes. That's the rep.
If this gave you something to actually do tonight, subscribe and stay with the series. We are building the whole map of how this technology really works, one honest piece at a time, and I'd like you along for it. And here's the one I genuinely can't settle for you. If seeing is no longer believing, what is the one thing you still trust completely, and should you? Tell us in the comments. I read them. This is Professor Erica. Thanks for watching and signing off.